Hello, my loyal companions. Welcome to episode 8 of RogueCast, your dedicated Rogue Company podcast, hosted by me, Radthar and Co-hosted, as always, by OctaneProTV. How are we this week, sir?
We are phenomenal. We had a good week of Rogue Company.
Yes.
No trollage, no going off, no getting frustrated.
No.
So no, it was a good week. It was a good week. I
Good,
enjoyed it.
clean.
It was a good week for Rogue Company.
Yeah, I agree. I've been having a lot of fun with Rogue Company. As always, we'll just sort of start up, catch up about how our week with Rogue Company's been, what we've been up to, how rank's gone, how just
hmm
general games have gone, how our content's gone, things like that. And I should give you the floor to start off with this week. What's your week been like with Rogue Company? What you been up to? How you been enjoying
Sure.
it?
Sure. So top of the week, we did some commentating on 2 versus 2 Wingman, and that was
Yes,
awesome.
yes.
Usually we do, if those of you guys aren't familiar, on Monday nights on my stream, I do something called Fight Club. And traditionally it's been 1 versus 1 and it's King of the Hill style. So you come on, you play, and you stay on the hill or you stay in until you're knocked out. The person that lasts the longest ends up winning a skin, in-game skin in the game. And so with Wingman being introduced, we went ahead and did 2 versus 2, and that was a lot of fun too. A lot of sweaty teams.
Mm-hmm.
You and Jolly played, did really well for
Boom.
a while.
It did.
Yeah, you had 8 consecutive wins and then got knocked out. So there was some really good players in there, some very new players in there, but it's fun. That's exactly what it's all about. It's just about having fun. And so that was a good time on Monday. I'm so happy that we're finally getting into these 2 versus 2
Mm-hmm.
scenarios and 3 versus 3 at some point here. So I'm excited about that. We played just some casual strikeouts the other night, and
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. Just kind of like, hey, let's play. And that was a good time. And then what did we do just the other night?
We accidentally queued into rank together.
That's right. Oh, that's right. We were playing, and then we did Demolition, and then we queued and played rank. So it was a good time. It was
Mhm.
definitely a good time all around. It was an enjoyable week of Rogue. It was a week after the patch scenario, so
Yeah.
all of that fluff is over,
Mhm.
and now we're back into the limbo period before anything new.
Yeah, it was a nice casual week, and I agree.
Yep.
My week's been pretty good. I had a great day of solo queue yesterday. Um,
Mm,
just general sort of solo queue stuff. Some great things, some highs, some lows. But generally, I was playing really well. I tried it again today. Didn't go so well.
okay.
I
Okay.
did not have much sleep. And this shows me on like 3 hours compared to me on 8 hours. There's completely different level of
Oh
gameplay.
man.
But
Yep.
it was okay. It was okay. But one thing, and I want to touch on this because of the wingman stuff. I don't know if you saw my video about the free for all.
Yeah. How
That
did
was
you? Yeah. I
oh
saw the title and the
yeah,
thumbnail, but I didn't watch it. How did you go about
it's
doing that?
so good. And I honestly think we should try this like together at some point because I think it's gonna be so
Mm,
funny. Is you go into wingman strikeout, specifically strikeout. You
okay.
get 4 people on each team because you can actually stack fours. You don't have to stack like 2 and 2. You can stack up to four
Okay.
people. And
Wow. On
and
that
and
little map.
yeah, and the little map, and all you get is because it's strikeout as well. You get this just slay fest of just pure
Okay.
everybody running around, spawning on different sides of the map because you get
hmm
respawns and just trying to
Yeah.
kill each other all the time. And it does.
Cool.
Obviously, you can't kill your own teammates, although people tried.
Yeah.
And it does become this sort of free for all style. And my general rule
Yeah.
was most downs wins. So if whoever gets the most downs wins and
Cool.
stays on
Cool.
is the way I did it. Or it was actually top 2. I said did it. So top 2 downs get to stay on, going to the next match of customs, and it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. Obviously, it's not real free for all, but that was the fun I was having with the Wingman game mode. It was just pure mayhem. Like just yeah, like
That's awesome, especially
yeah,
on such a small map. And
exactly.
yeah, that is a very cool mechanic. I mean, we don't. I've always been a strong proponent of true custom games, whereas
Mhm.
right now these are just private lobbies,
Yeah.
and we as the community are coming up with our own custom features of it.
Mhm.
Ideally, I'd love to see the game get to a point where it's true customs, and we have sliders to adjust different things: economy, buy time,
Mhm.
rounds,
Yeah.
weapons. What is allowed, what isn't. I mean, imagine a same thing you did, but pistols only. Like
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
like all these types of really
That would
cool
be really
things.
funny.
So I can't wait till we get to customs only, like true customs.
Mhm.
But I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and it's actually what I used to do back playing Realm Royale.
Mhm.
Was we would create a custom lobby. You could invite up to 90 players,
Yeah.
and then you would make your own rules
Yeah.
in the lobby. Like, hey,
Mhm.
everybody has to drop here because a lot of these, and oh, you could only use these weapons or these
Mhm.
classes because the game didn't have them.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you're doing here, and I think it's a great idea.
Exactly. Honestly, it was so much fun. I never like experimented with that sort of stuff before, like in games and
Mhm.
stuff. But it was just fun to jump in a custom. I guess the most I is like I used to play like Halo Reach and the Forge
Oh yeah.
mode in Halo, and we used to
hmm
build maps and game modes because of it. Because Halo had a really good integrated sort of game mode creation system, so it was a lot of fun. But you said something interesting there about like sliders and stuff for customs.
Yeah.
And I thought about this when everything was going on with Demolition and the increased rounds. I always thought, well, you know what? You increase rounds, you increase economy. That makes it really easy for sliders. You know, you go say you drop a round where you drop $500 off the economy as well, and you just sort of bring it like that, and that kind of segues very nicely onto one change that was announced on Friday, which was that the rounds in Demolition are now going to first to 8. So just for a bit of backstory, traditionally the game was first to 7, a best of 13. So you just had to get to 7, then you win, and it had a maximum of 13 rounds in total. They then increased it with the Secret update to a best of 17, which took you to the first to 9. So you had to win 9 rounds, or it had a max of 17. Now they're dropping it down a round, and they're going to first to 8. So halfway point between what we used to have and what we have right now currently. What are your thoughts? Honestly, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, there was a lot of backlash from the community about not wanting this the longer rounds in the first place, thinking it was going to be way too long. And generally, when it came out, everyone was saying it was way too long. Everyone wanted it reverted. So they seem to have taken a step in that direction to revert it by dropping it down to a midway point. So yeah, I'm just curious, what were your thoughts on that? You think it was necessary? Think it was too early? What are your thoughts?
I know that you and I on the previous episode had talked a lot about the fact of where did this change come from. We hadn't really seen any community push for, hey, we want more rounds, or there's a lot of imbalance, or yada yada yada. We didn't see that, so that was very frustrating to have this kind of, hey, we're moving it from 13 to 17 type of scenario. Now that the community has voiced this frustration, and my guess is they've seen also a dip in demolition numbers. They're now going, okay, we need to revert this back. We need to revert this as a halfway point.
Yeah.
I am happy. I think 15 is going to be a sweeter spot than the 13, which is good. I'm glad we are playing with adjustments. We try it out. The community gives feedback, and now we adjust it perfectly. Like at the end of the day, a developer that listens to the community will be much more successful than we think we know what's best for you. So I'm very thrilled to hear about this, to see that it's going in this direction. I hate that we had to get to this point though. Like I hate that we had a patch had to be released, the community had to get frustrated, and then they knock it down. It's like, why don't we use the assets you have available to you first?
Yeah.
Put this out there and see where the community wants to go, instead of assuming you know what's best and then we have to go this route. So that's my thoughts. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
Because you play significantly more Demolition than I do, especially ranked. What are your thoughts on this adjustment from 17 down to 15?
I think I played like 14 hours of Demolition yesterday.
Oh, what's wrong with you?
I did an 8-hour solo queue stream and was like, oh, okay, I'm done with that. And then jumped on my main account with some friends and did more ranked, and it was like, oh, okay, I've played too much ranked tonight. Hence the no sleep I was talking about.
Yes.
So honestly, I'd kind of started to get used to 9 rounds. I still didn't like it. I felt like there was something wrong with the economy. And not just that. I think my issue was, it all comes down to pistol rounds, which I believe, again, was their focus, is they wanted pistol rounds to go on longer, if necessary, like if people weren't performing.
And I noticed that. I noticed that.
100%. Yep. You could get to round 4 and only then buy your primary weapon. And so what I noticed, though, was I would still do okay and not be able to buy my primary weapon. Like, I would get a down and maybe an elim, and that still wouldn't give me enough for a primary weapon unless I was buying a sub or shotgun, which were lower priced anyway. And that was really frustrating for me, because it's like, well, like, I got a down and an elim. I put effort into that first round. I want a weapon. Even though I didn't win, I want a weapon.
Where's my gun?
And what I think this bridge will do, assuming they adjust the economy for it, which I hope so, otherwise it'll be kind of really painful. I hope they bump up $500 per round. Per win or loss, to just get us in a bit more of a sweet spot between them. Because that way, if you do something in your round, even if you lose, if you had a significantly good impact, you got 2 downs but no elims, or you got a down, a revive, and an assist, you'll actually be able to buy a weapon next time because you put effort in. But it'll still punish those people who just do nothing and get the round win or lose the round because they didn't impact it. Enough. And I honestly think that's a good middle ground. I actually just found myself playing Kestrel, honestly, because you don't care about the economy when you play Kestrel. I never had an issue. I always bought more, always bought, something really useful in round 2, or I was about to get my primary weapon. And so I think this
Yeah,
will be.
she's kind of a counter to the new
She
economy system,
is.
believe it or not. Yeah.
Best Rogue and Rogue Company. How to counter their economy system. Play Kestrel.
Yes. Yes.
Or Dahlia linked to Kestrel. Your two options.
Yeah.
Okay, just to ease that iffiness, I guess is what I'm gonna call it. Just the iffiness of the economy that I didn't like. They will absolutely reduce the amount of rounds you have to do. I also really like. I don't know if we touched on this last episode,
Okay.
but because I think I speculated this last time. Because they've knocked one round off each. There's gonna be 7 rounds and a half. Meaning they'll never finish even. You'll never finish on like a 3-3
Oh,
or
yeah.
4-4.
Yep.
And so we'll be on this 3-4 situation going into next half where one team will
Yes.
always, no matter
Yes.
what, have an advantage, which I think is a really, really interesting like mechanic, like mental process.
It's so rough being on that losing team though, because I've had games where you swap rounds and then you sit in pistol rounds for 3 rounds.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow, like I was already behind.
Yeah.
Like we're down by 1 and now we're pistol rounds for 3 rounds.
Yeah, well, what I felt like was just like one team just had like the team that was like necessarily on the worst side, I guess you could say, because I know some attack versus defender heavy just had to hold on for half the amount of rounds and they get a completely clean slate going into the next half. Whereas now you're not on that clean slate no matter what. You have to win it. You have to, go in at a deficit. And I like that. I like that. I guess I like it because it's like, what, if the sides are one-sided, teams will come out with an advantage because they're on that side. Let's say the two best teams go against each other. They're fairly even no matter what, and they just have side advantage. Or that team who started attack and had attacker advantage will finish 4-3 going into the next half. But then again, it flips, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I don't know. I like it. I think that's a small thing that might get overlooked in all of this, is actually how interesting that could be as a mechanic, which we haven't had in Rogue Company yet. So I think that's going to be quite nice. Definitely, again, it's going to reduce the time of demolition rounds, which I think is going to be nice.
Yes.
Do not like 9/8s. They're too long for playing, for content, for a lot of things. It's just too long. And there's another thing they decided to do to minimize time ever so slightly. They're knocking 6 seconds off of the in-game plane between the rounds, if that makes any sense. So between the rounds, when you're in that plane, it's normally 20 seconds, 21 seconds. It's dropping down to 14, 15 seconds. You're actually in that plane to buy your stuff before you drop out. And I like that. I honestly like that. I think that's they must have tested it. I'm a bit of a muppet, and sometimes I don't always buy stuff as soon as I can. But like, it will definitely speed up the pace of the game, because you think average game, how long? What? Let's say 10 rounds an average game, right? It'll be a 8 to 2, or maybe like even more, like 12 rounds, 13 rounds. That's 6 seconds. That's at least a minute. Like, and that's a significant amount of time. You like that change?
It adds up.
Unnecessary, or just like a nice little quality of life?
I for those of us that are more veteran players that know what we're building and what we're and what we're buying when there's a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
In the plane.
Yeah.
I think for the players that are newer, that are kind of struggling, things like that, I think they'll feel a little rushed, but that's okay. I think it'll kind of usher things along a little bit more. But other than that, I'll take it. I see them looking. My guess is they're looking at the overall time in demolition, and the amount of commitment to it, and they're like, okay, well, man, we're at 17 rounds. The average, they probably looked at the average length of a game was 17 in with some real data and went, wow, this is really long.
Yeah.
But see, you and I have talked about this, and I'll mention it again. I want to see the reasoning behind this. Like, what was the reasoning behind 17? And if it was the community, just the outreach said it was, like, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Or if they come back and say, we were finding the average time was 35 minutes in a game, we don't like that. We want to see it here.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff. So if Scott Gandhi's listening, I'd love to see that type of stuff on patch notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to see reasoning behind the changes. I think the community respects you more as a developer when they know they're being heard and they know the reasoning behind changes, other than somebody picked up their little pen and went click. Okay, we're making this. So I'm all for it. I think this is an area to shave off time. If they really want to shave off time too, the load times. I mean, come on, guys. Some of these load times are insane. Like,
they can be.
Get into it after your queue pops to the time that you're in a plane, or to you're picking your rogue. And then between the time you pick your rogue and the time you're in your plane, you want to save 6 seconds, you can save like a minute.
Yeah.
Optimizing that.
They can be bad, yeah, I agree. I normally find it's when somebody's struggling to connect, and I think that's what it is. Normally console players, when console players are struggling to connect, that's when I find that queue really could take a while. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm actually, talking about that, just explaining their decisions. Something I noticed on one of the This Week in Rogue companies that I was listening to is Pretty Hat actually did say, and the reason we're making this change is because of X, Y, and Z. And I really liked that. It got me thinking about what we were talking about, as you just said. And I liked it. I was like, oh, this is exactly what we need. Yeah, so I thought it was very interesting. But I'm glad what they're doing with demo. I think they've listened to the community. I know some people say there wasn't enough time with First and 9, and I kind of agree. I did get more used to it, but you get used to what you have to play on. Doesn't mean it's best. And again, I always found an issue with the economy system, so I'm glad this is a change is happening. Should be a middle ground. Really shouldn't be that much of an issue. I hope everybody sort of feels good about it. I just think it's kind of smart. I'm not gonna lie. It's you know what developers do when they bring out a new character and then they make them so OP just to then bring them down and make them seem balanced, even if they're still pretty strong. They've kind of done this. They've got the desired effect they wanted by increasing it, by over increasing it and bringing it down, so we're happy with an increase.
Yes,
like
100%.
I bet if they said, hey, let's change the rounds to first to 8 before they said first to 9, everyone would be like, no, we don't want first to 8, and then they've got nowhere to go back down to apart from 7. So they've actually just outsmarted us all. they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. But speaking of This Week in Rogue Company, this week's This Week in Rogue Company, that's a mouthful. We saw a little something, little sneaky something hidden in the shop. In the shop of where you buy in the plane for your weapons and abilities and perks and stuff.
Your buy menu.
Yes, your buy menu. We saw something labeled Gambits, and that was interesting. It looks like pieces of equipment or abilities that you can buy, upgrade, that don't necessarily have to be your specific equipment. For example, the exact image was Anvil, and he had a trip mine available in this Gambit. He had what looked like his barricade available in the Gambit, and there was something else I don't quite remember.
EMP.
What that was. EMP.
It was an EMP.
And so there's 3 pieces of equipment under Gambits that he may have access to, and I think, obviously there's no solid data about what that means. We do not know exactly what it means, so I think you and I here get a nice little chance
we know what it means.
Theory
we know what it means.
Well,
let's cut through the BS here, Radthar. Let's be honest here. So in a previous episode, guys, we talked about the fact of there was rumor that they would be changing things up a little bit with each of the characters, and that you would be able to purchase your ability. So the queue for PC players, I don't know what it is for Xbox, but whatever you use for your ability, so Anvil was what we got a picture of. And if you're interested, it's this past week's This Week in Rogue. You'll notice that when the buy menu comes up at the very bottom, you see those 3 items. So the buy menu looks a little bit different. Perks have been shrunken down in order to fit this Gambit level, and that's where Anvil's shield is. So you don't get Anvil's riot shield. Oh, I guess no, that's on a riot shield. What do they call this?
Barricade.
What do they call
shield?
Barricade. Thank you. Riot shield is more on Secret, but on the barricade you see it at the bottom for 2,000. So there's a few things there. That means round 1, you don't have your ability. That means it is more traditional gunplay. More in line with like CSGO style. So it's almost, your gunplay has more value in round 1 because of the fact, or it could be round 2 or round 3, based off the fact that, okay, when are you going to get your ability? When do you want to spend the money for it? It's only 2,000, so it's not astronomical. But now my other question there is, does it level up? Does it have 3 tiers? Just like we've seen with other items throughout. It would make sense that it would. Everything else has 3 tiers except for perks. So does it have tiers? For Anvil, there's the trip mine, and as you level that up, it maybe it's bigger sensitivity and then more damage, whatever. And the same thing with the barricade. So that's what we're seeing here as well. So there's a lot to unpack here. But I think the biggest question to throw over to you too is, what are your thoughts on different abilities per an individual character versus traditional static that we've seen so far, since Rogue Company's been even in closed beta?
I mean, I don't think they're gonna allow other rogues to have other rogues' abilities. That's something I don't think will happen.
Yes, I don't think that'll happen either.
No, so I think it may come down to a case of you have to buy your ability. It also, honestly, again, because we don't know a lot, it could just be you upgrade your ability. It could very simply be it. Although based off the UI, it kind of does like like where would that trip mine and where would that EMP go? Like if you imagine like where you see the three gambits, like you could get a trip mine, you can get your barricade, or you can get an EMP, and we don't know exactly what they do 100%, but based off the UI and the controller, I can't think of a keybind for controller that's gonna make that work. Where you could have your barricade. So maybe it is a buy it.
Yeah.
Maybe you decide and this could be good. Like maybe you don't want Ronan's knife. Maybe you want a I don't know what else you'd give her, another smoke grenade or something like that. Maybe you want to just run double smoke off rip. And I guess that's interesting. I like the idea that you could buy your ability. I actually really do like that idea, that it would be something that is bought rather than something that you always have with you every single round. I think it would make you micromanage your economy more. I think it means you could save rounds more, which is obviously really big in Valorant and CSGO and games like that, is saving rounds, Are they upgradable? Probably not, right? Because in my head, if you look at Gambits compared to the traditional gadgets, we see that the gadgets still have their upgrades. We still on the thing. You still see that the gadgets.
I can't tell. I'm looking at the buy menu right now. Okay, so you can tell underneath of every item if they're tiered because there's actually the slots. If you remember, there's 3 slots or 2 slots. I'm trying to look in this video to see. Okay, there is not. So that means that they're not tiered then. That means that what I was saying earlier was not correct. That it is not tiered and that it is a one-time purchase.
Yes. Okay, that kind of brings in the interesting thing of sorry, I'll finish that point. You know me, I'm a tangenter. So the extra gadgets you get within the Gambit, so this extra trip mine or this extra EMP grenade won't be as powerful as, say, the traditional trip mine or the traditional EMP grenade, because you can't upgrade it, and that's kind of the difference. And that also leads into the fact that maybe it is a one-time use rather than I've bought it and now I have it, which is also kind of interesting. Maybe you don't get your shield every round. Maybe you have to buy that shield every single round. Because realistically, what would change? Because if you look, the price of the traditional gadgets went down. The trip mine that you maybe see on that page is 1,000. Rather
2,000.
than is it 2,000?
Everything, all the Gambits are 2,000.
No, not the Gambits. The actual gadgets, like the
the actual gadgets.
The actual gadgets.
C4 is 2,000, and your APS system is 1,000.
Yeah, which it's normally 4,000 and 3,000. So they've been reduced as well. So that's getting me to think, maybe it's all one-time purchase. Maybe you only get your things. I mean, maybe less so for the traditional gadgets, but the Gambits, maybe you have to buy them every single round, and that makes sense to the economy adjustment. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is, you know what? You have a reduced price of your C4, you have a reduced price of your shield, and if you get them both permanently, nothing changes. You buy your shield round 1, you have it forever. You buy your C4 round 1 because they've both been reduced, and you have that forever, and you're just in a traditional round 1. So I don't know whether it's going to be permanent, whether you have to buy it once every round. That would be an interesting mechanic. I don't know. What's your thoughts on the possibility that we move to gadgets and gambits, or just gambits, or whatever, being a one-time purchase per round? So you have to rebuy it again. I guess essentially what I'm trying to say.
Sure. So it becomes more of a consumable.
That's what it is. Exactly what it is. That's the word.
So 2 thoughts here. First thought is, this definitely changes the flow of a game where everybody doesn't come in very cookie cutter. Like, hey, this is how you build Anvil, and we're talking about Anvil only because we only have the image for him. Everybody builds Anvil the same for Demolition or Strikeout, I guess, whatever you want to do. And so this adds some uniqueness to it, which means that it's going to stir up the meta quite a bit, because the meta will shift based off of what people find works well and doesn't work well. My second thought here is, and I feel they're going to have to go this route because of the complexity they're adding now. Imagine a new player, you'd load this up, and this is your buy menu you look at, and you go, oh my gosh, where do I start? So my thought is, I'd like to see an auto buy. So auto buy is turned on by default. They did this in Realm Royale, they did this in Paladins, they did this in Smite. They had an auto buy feature. So It is on by default for your first 10 levels, and then after 10, you can turn it off. Or at any
Okay.
time you can turn it off. But what it is it's in there, and when your first game you pop up, it says like auto buy is on, click A to turn it off or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can go into settings and defaultly turn it off.
Okay.
I think they're gonna have to go that route, just because when you and I, when we look at this menu, it makes sense to us.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
But imagine you download Rogue Company day one,
Mhm.
you go through the tutorial, you load in your first game, you get to your buy menu. You're like,
Yeah.
oh god. And they're cutting down on the amount of buy time by 6 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
That's
like
true. Yeah. Yeah.
so
That's very
yeah,
very true.
so I am not against it. I like people almost being a little more customized,
Mhm.
especially to their play style or to what your team needs or to the
Mhm.
map. I think that's what this
Yes.
lends to.
Mhm.
So it adds more strategy.
Yeah.
But with this complexity comes confusion. And
Mhm.
we don't want to lose new players because they're like, nope, Rogue Company's too complicated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are
No.
my thoughts.
No.
Any feedback
No.
on that?
I like that. I like that. I personally would prefer not an auto buy and a recommended. So
Okay.
so you know how normally it's grayed out, and then if you could buy it, it pops up as green. I
Yep.
would like the
Yep.
recommended to say recommended like on the top of it and
Yellow.
be gold. Yeah, or gold,
Yep.
and be there and be like,
Yep.
hey, you should buy this, but you can buy whatever
Mhm.
you want. I think I
Yeah.
would like that as more of a user friendly. But I'm actually thinking this is the first time I played Rogue Company, which I've rewatched that video every once in a while, and it's the best thing.
Best thing ever.
Best thing to watch, my first ever gameplay. My first death, by the
Nice.
way, was a melee weapon by a Talon, and I felt like that just
I
built.
know how that feels.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
how that feels.
yeah. And yes, I think, and I just remember being really kind of like confused, like, "Huh, what do I buy here?" I don't think I bought anything, and I screamed at myself when rewatching it, like, "Buy a grenade, Rad!" I was playing Ronin. I was like, "Buy the grenade! Buy the utility!" Um, so yeah, I think a recommended tab would be really, or like a recommended like outline would be great. At least in the early levels, that you could turn off as like a UI help tip or something, or even add those things. So the UI help tip, as you're moving through the map,
Mm.
maybe like where like, they say the bomb has been planted. Well, they say that maybe have a UI tip that pops up on the screen potentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
or in a more advanced tutorial mode, maybe in the practice modes, where it says the bomb has been planted. You have this amount
Yeah.
of seconds to defend it, so that the
Yeah.
enemy team don't defuse it. Some sort of like UI tips like that could be really cool and early player friendly. And that
Yep.
also brings in sort of what we were talking about a couple weeks ago as well, of forcing newer players to go through a checklist
Yep.
of what
Yep.
modes they have to play. Of, hey, you have to play the
Yep.
tutorial, then you have to play a practice demo, then you have to play a
Yep.
practice strikeout, then you can do normal demo, and like have different milestones that allow them to reach what they want. Yeah, I think they could definitely lead towards this. I think Gambits though are going to be interesting, and again, I said it, but these are not. We do not 100% know exactly what these are. It's
Yep.
speculation based on playing the game for a very long time. We both probably know what we're talking about, but they could absolutely surprise us. And and the developers have come out and said when this was released, when this was I don't think it was accidentally leaked. I guess I think it was purposely put in This Week in Rogue Company to
Yes.
add a little
100%.
bit of things. Oh,
100%.
you know what? I was that was like my chat, because I was live when it happened, and they were like, "Oh, they've messed up. They've accidentally shown this." I'm like, "No, there's no way." But the more and more it went on, and they were like backtracking it. I was like, "Did they mess up here? Did they really
Nope.
accidentally do this?" No. Okay,
Nope.
I was gonna say, but they did come out and say this is a test feature. This is not hitting live servers anytime soon. This is purely something we're testing and looking at to see if it fits within the game. And I like that. I like a little bit of teaser. I don't mind. It gets us talking. Gives us things to talk about.
Yeah, I think this will be good for content creators
Yep.
like yourself, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, now you get to start to talk about build scenarios.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, so it's like, holy cow, it's like we're gonna go with this build and we're gonna
Yeah.
call this build the Radthar Anvil build. And it's these 5 things in this order, stuff like that.
Radthar
Not that
Anvil build? Do you think that video is ever coming out? There'll be a Radthar build for every single rogue 10 times over.
Yep.
There will not be one for Anvil. Joking.
But
I'm
I
partial.
do think that this adds diversity to
Hmm.
gameplay, which I
Yeah.
think is good. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to see where it goes. My last concern I'll say on
Hmm.
this is this the time to be changing up your game this dramatically? This is something that I feel like would have been a good test in beta
Yeah.
or I'm sorry,
True.
closed beta or alpha, but is this now the time?
Mhm.
we're in this kind of weird law period where we don't know where Rogue Company is going to go.
Mhm.
Is it going to go to the moon or is it going to flatline? You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
We're in this weird law period. And my concern is only based off of history is looking back at games like Realm Royale or Paladins in the early time period, they did a lot of curveballs like this.
Yeah.
These kind of changes, and I just am concerned of player turnoff, where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't like that, I'm out type of deal. So it's like,
Yeah.
is this the time to try to redefine your game? So
Mhm.
that's just it's an open ended question. You know, based off of the round changes we're seeing with demolition, based off of these changes we're seeing to the ability
Mhm.
purchases. It's just I don't know. I just
Yeah.
hate to see I hate to see bad development changes made at a
Yeah.
time when we're hoping the game continues to flourish.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like they're trying to jump the gun. They're trying to be the next step ahead, but without actually
Yep.
giving the current game time to breathe.
Yes.
And because you know,
Perfect.
no one's come to me and been like, "Oh, you know what? I need Rogue Company to drastically change because I hate this game." You know,
Mhm.
especially not about like the content of the game. Maybe the
Yep.
balancing, maybe you know this that and the other, but never like you know what you know what I'm really missing the option to buy new gadgets and things and change the entire economy and make sure there's longer rounds. No one ever comes and
Yep.
says that. No one's ever come into my
Nope.
chat or my YouTube comments and said that, as I'm sure they haven't with you. And I know we haven't gone and voiced that to developers. So they're really trying to like innovate without seeing what their innovation has led to. Because Rogue Company by
Yes.
itself, right now, is a fantastic game. It's a
Mhm.
brilliant game. It's nice, it's simple, it's casual. We have such a great time to build a player base for a couple months.
Mhm.
Then you launch that change. Come season 2, you're like, you know what? Season 2 of Rogue Company is here. Season 3 of Rogue
Sure.
Company is here even. We are now bringing here a change to the way the game works
Mhm.
and they just get their breathe. So yeah, I agree with you on that sentiment. But teasers are always nice. We don't know when that will eventually come down. It might be season 2 or
We
3, and
don't.
it might just be really early. But the fact that they're testing it right now is like, but teasers are always great. More teasers have come out, not so much this
Yep.
week. It was actually a week or two ago. Regarding a PVE game modes within the Rogue Company universe. The wording was very vague. And this came
You want me to
from
cover this one?
yes, please. Let's go. Go.
Perfect.
Give
So
us the lowdown.
High Res Chris is High Res Chris. I actually know him from back in the Smite days. He is a game developer that has worked his way up through the company and now oversees all game development at
Okay.
High Res. And he was in Two Off's chat, I
Mhm.
guess is where this came
Yep.
from. And Twitch, if you guys aren't familiar, he's another content creator and streamer. And there was some type of question that started this, and he came back with an answer, saying we are working on a new co-op game in the Rogue Company universe. Stay tuned. And in addition to that, we have a response of probably a next year release, but it's being worked on. So first, I'll throw this to you. Get your
Mhm.
thoughts on some of this wording here. So what are your thoughts on a co-op game?
Co-op game to me. Okay, traditionally, co-op game to me in that context would mean a separate game, not a mode within Rogue Company, not a campaign mode. But Fortnite would have turned the ball on that for me, honestly. When you load up Fortnite, you had the option to go into Save the
Mm,
World or the BR.
mm,
And I think that's maybe more like something they could do. So it is a separate game, but within the same game, like there's no
mhm,
progressional mix there. Like, you know, what you do in the campaign or co-op
mhm,
PVE, whatever it is, doesn't transition into what happens in the multiplayer aspect. Like you don't level up, you don't unlock more weapons, you don't get reputation or anything like that.
mhm,
It is a separate game, but still within Rogue Company, and that's what I would like it to be. Honestly, whatever this is, I would like it to be still within Rogue Company. I don't want to download another game that is
mhm,
just call something else. I don't know, like you know, Rogue versus Jackal or something like that, or
mhm.
which it could be. And if it's a separate game, separate download in the same universe, I really wouldn't be as interested. Mostly because I want lore in the game and I want it in a Rogue Company. Now I'm so bored. I want lore. Um. So yeah, I really think that it should be in the same game, but the wording does lead to me to think it's a separate game. What's your take?
So, I think High Res learned very quickly. So a great example. A little history here, and then we'll get into
Let's go.
some more information. Realm Royale started out in Paladins as a separate game mode
Okay.
called Paladins Battlegrounds, and the success of it caused it to break off
Mm-hmm.
into its own separate game called Realm Royale. When Realm Royale started to not do so well, there was a lot of people pushing for them to take Realm Royale, put it back in Paladins as a game mode because it was in the same universe.
Mhm.
In this situation, I would love to see this in the game of Rogue Company. Um, there has been, a lot of people have asked like how High Res is approaching lore within Rogue Company, and we've seen a few different ways they've done that. We've seen small cinematics that
Mhm.
they've put together for releases. We've seen weird like screenshots and clips and stuff
Yeah.
like that, to kind of lend towards it. A little bit of storyline here and there, but
Mhm.
not a ton. Like if I go ahead and pick Lancer, you don't have like a ton of details on Lancer, on
No.
like who she is and all that types of stuff. Backstory, little cinematic or anything like that.
Mhm.
I think, I brought up actually Googled co-op video game and
Mhm.
it comes up with Wikipedia cooperative video game. Cooperative video game is a video game that allows players to work together as teammates, usually against one or more non-player character opponents.
Yeah.
This feature is often abbreviated as co-op. So
Yeah.
this is a PVE. This is
100%.
you and other players working together to battle through a game.
Mhm.
So imagine Halo's single player,
Mhm.
things like that. I think the community is eager for something like this because we want lore.
Yep.
And I will say, I think this is what in the past has held Hi-Res back in a lot of their other games
Yeah.
from going from subpar to up here.
Mhm.
Like, because of the fact of they don't have that. Like, if you think about it, great example. I have several friends who are like, Rogue Company looks good, but I wouldn't get into it because I'm not into PvP.
Yeah.
So you isolate who's going to play your game.
Mhm.
Well, now if it's like, well, Rogue Company has a campaign, which goes almost back to like the way games used to be,
Yeah,
where it
like
had
COD.
a campaign and a multiplayer
Mhm.
is what it used to do. And you would buy the game. Most of them weren't free to play back then. You'd buy the game, and then based off of what you enjoyed, you'd go the campaign route, and then you go the multiplayer like route. Like you'd pick and choose which avenue you'd go. Did I confuse you there?
No, you sparked a thought. Finish your thought, and then
Okay.
we'll go back to this face.
Okay. So in this regard, I'm eager to see like you could go an entire like a totally different player base and grow your game from, and maybe they've plateaued and now they just need a boost. But keep in mind, it did say possibly next year, which means 2022,
Mhm.
possibly. So yeah. Anyways, end of my thought. Where does that light bulb go that went off in your head? Those of you guys that are watching on the video and not the audio, Radthar's face, like as I'm talking, it was a confused look or like a "ooh, I just thought of something" look.
It was confused, inspired. Is the way I'll describe it. I think are you gonna have to pay for it? You have to with Fortnite, but Save the World is a paid thing, and Battle Royale is
They
always the free
they
version. You
they
may
will
have,
go that route 100%. They'll go
yeah,
that route 100%
okay,
because look at how they did their battle pass system looking at
yeah,
other games. Guarantee you 100%. Hi-Res is a copycat.
mhm,
They look at other games and they go, "I like it, let's do it."
yeah,
Versus we're revolutionizing the scene and coming up with a brand new genre. That's not traditionally a Hi-Res thing. That's like a
no,
Blizzard thing or an Activision type of thing. Kind of all the same company now at this point, or a Riot thing, but not really a Hi-Res thing. So yes, I do think, and maybe that's why they're saying like universe because they have to break it off.
yeah,
I but I do want one game you load up and then you decide the path you go. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've played Fortnite like once or twice, right? You've loaded up into the menu and seen
yep,
Save the World thing.
yep.
Okay, yes, that's what I'm imagining. And
That
yeah,
that's how Halo used to be. And think of it,
yeah,
Scott Gandhi's the developer,
mm,
lead developer. He's a Halo fanboy. He has
yeah,
been for years. He's been a part of that scene. You load it up. Halo was known with most gamers because think of it this way. What if they're looking at this from the perspective of being the next Halo? So,
mhm,
but they did
true,
this in reverse. They're doing
right,
this in
yeah,
reverse of every gamer I feel like has played Halo's campaign.
mhm,
You know the storyline, you know the characters, you fall in love with those characters, you follow them along for Halo 1, 2, 3, all the way up
yeah,
type of deal. What if High Res is trying to follow suit with Halo and it's like we want to create, now granted ass backwards, they're putting multiplayer first
yeah,
before campaign, but what if they're doing that, like that's what they're doing. So now you load in and you have campaign and multiplayer.
But that
I mean,
mean,
their
yeah.
campaign could be super extensive. Like, but I will say my last point. I'll throw it over to you. Hi-Res Studios has never been a story mode company,
No.
and maybe this is their 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 rocket. Their rocket
Mhm.
to a new genre style.
Yeah. Hey, I just think that high-res secret. Okay, either they've done this by accident or they are incredibly smart and they've done us all over.
Okay.
Starting with a multiplayer in the current way games are, and then putting a story in sounds
Mhm.
perfect because
Mhm.
your multiplayer in the way Rogue Company is being so simple and so
Mhm.
fun and just so like, hey, we do a game, it's done. Brings in players, it brings in you, it brings in me, it brings in this massive player base and competitive scene, and then you throw a story on top that people can pay for, rather than
Mhm.
forcing someone to pay for a story without a great multiplayer backing it up.
Mhm.
And therefore, you have just this story that people are like, cool, that was fun. Or, hey, I don't really care. It's just a story based game. Like, as a gamer, at least in my older years now, as well
Yep.
as a kid, I just played more like campaigns and stuff. Like, but as a late teens to now to my 20s, the multiplayer is what drives me. And having a cool story would be great because I enjoyed the multiplayer. And if you look at what Fortnite did when they released the PVE, then the BR,
Mhm.
and then no one played the PVE, I bet their numbers in the PVE skyrocketed when they had the BR. So when they had the
Mhm.
multiplayer, people were like, oh cool, let's check out the PVE. I'll buy that. Why not? We got a great free to play game here,
Yep.
and there's additional content that I just pay for. Standard in games, you pay for additional content, and additional content tends to be story based. There we are. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Do we think they
Yeah, I
thought of
like
that?
it.
Or do we think they've
Uh,
stumbled upon this by
they
accident?
I mean, let's give them kudos here. They are a veteran enough company
True,
that
very true.
they're planning out 5 years plus.
That's
So
true. That's
in
very
that
true.
regard, and I think those of you guys have been following around high res for quite a number of years, they very much seem to make the motion of putting all their eggs in one basket with
Mhm.
Rogue Company right now. I mean, they rescinded on Paladins Esports, Realm Royale they folded on. Like, they have kind of pulled back and they're putting it all in here. This also probably alludes to why they're not dumping money into this esports scene
Mhm.
of Rogue Company, because they're like, hold the phone. We're not ready for
Mhm.
that. We're moving in this direction here,
Yeah.
which is fine. The scene is naturally growing from the
Very
grassroots
true.
side on the east side, and let it grow naturally. So yeah, I do think, I mean, there's a lot of speculation this episode, but
Mhm.
there's a lot to speculate on
It
right
really
now.
is.
And we're also in a limbo period. We're
We
between
are.
patches. So
Yes.
this is kind of what we're seeing. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, no, I think that's just it's touching on it. I'm still just wild by this.
Mhm.
But yeah, what do you think the PvE will be? Do you think it will be a campaign? Here's a story where you develop into
Mhm.
a story,
Yep.
or do you think it's going to be, and this is what I think they need, a horde type mode, survival, onslaught of jackals running at you, you and your teammates have to defend the position or run through them, and it is this sort of like wave after wave after wave,
I
and
think it's
or
gonna be I think it's gonna be less of that and more of the former that you said. So
the
it's like
story
you're
based.
working your yeah, story based 100%. They need this lore aspect. So I think it's
True.
gonna be, you are a new rogue joining Rogue
Hmm.
Company. And now
Yeah.
you're fighting Jackal and you're doing, like this. Like, there's so much story mode available to you. You're gonna run into these different rogues along the way, or you have to play as these different rogues along the
Mhm.
way. That's my perspective of it. Yeah, I absolutely, absolutely think that's what
Mhm.
it is. I think that's what it's gonna be.
That's hard for a game company that's never done something like that.
Yes.
They
Yes.
have
Yeah.
to hit that in the park, and that does
Yep.
make sense of the money. And I was thinking,
Yep.
I can't name, and maybe I'm just not that smart,
Mhm.
a PvP only game that isn't free to play. Like,
Correct.
a big one at least. I mean, maybe PUBG
Yeah.
you had to buy, right?
PUBG, you do have to buy.
You do
Yes,
have to buy,
correct.
and that was
But I
including
feel like,
multiplayer.
yeah, PUBG, like, I think it's all based off of the what is the niche now? Like, of
Mhm.
what is everyone doing, and right now we are still in that free to play
Yeah,
area of
yeah.
game genres
I mean,
where everyone is going with microtransactions.
exactly. Even Warzone was free to play. Like, that's Call of Duty. Call of Duty went free,
Yeah, but
had a free to play
you know
mode.
who broke, who really went against the grain there though was Overwatch. So
Yeah.
Overwatch did Overwatch did both. They went, we're gonna charge people $60 for our game, and we're gonna have skins in our game too to sell you.
Yeah.
So we're tapping that fuel from both perspectives.
Yeah, no, they really did that. Yes, that'll be really interesting. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. That could be real hit or miss. But I love storyline. I love the idea when you said that you're a new rogue joining a rogue company and you have to fight the jackal and you've got Ronin there with you. The little kid in me is right now just like I'm having such a great time in my mind.
It's a great idea. You're gonna instantly have the current player base buy that. They have to charge for it. They have to.
Yeah,
They're gonna buy that. I mean, think about it. How are you gonna add microtransactions into a campaign? Like the value isn't there. Now if they want to hit a home run, okay, last thing, they want to hit a home run, they allow you to bring over your skins for your guns and your characters into the campaign. So when you go over there, you're like, oh, I'm gonna select this Ronin, here's my skin, here's my, all that types of stuff.
Assuming you're playing as those characters, which I don't
Well,
think
correct.
you
Or
would.
exactly. Or like, what is this? That's what if you? Okay, we're gonna go far off here. What if you go in and you build your own character? So
Oh
like,
no!
you build your own custom. You build your own custom rogue. So you're selecting this, and this. Their outfit, their design, their look, their weapons out of a weapon pool, their gadgets, their abilities. Like, imagine that. That would and then you that would be sick. Like, but let's be realistic here.
Yeah, we're good. You know who would have been the perfect character design for a basic rogue, like your generic rogue that everyone or like you start as would be Seeker. Seeker would be the perfect rogue that you would play as in a rogue company. I have a feeling they might do like a male female one. Like that's the customization. That's very big at the moment.
Maybe.
Even if they don't go full customization, that is very kind of standard. If you go like the
look at
Assassin's Creed.
Soldier 76. Look at Soldier 76 in Overwatch. Like he was like your character you kind of played through, because he was so you could connect with him from generic. You could connect with him from the whole like Call of Duty, Halo feel, like his weapon set. It wasn't crazy unique. It's gonna be very interesting to see what they do. I do feel though it's got to be a home run. You can't half-ass this. Like, you want to wait an extra year, go for it. Like, do it right.
Which means make sense of the funding, because those games, like games with campaigns, that's where the money goes. That's where their budget really goes, is creating this story, because that coding is like massive. You don't have to make one template that then fits all situations. You have to make a living story, and so that makes sense. Why there's no comp scene by them, apart from like the small injections they make into the esports scene through CMG and things. Why there's been no sort of like paid sort of version of the game or anything like that is because they're just funneling into this, which I like it. I'm excited. You got me excited. Oh, I'm sure.
I like it.
In a month, 2 months, 3 months, we'll hear a little bit more, get a little bit of a thing. We'll talk about this again, but I am very interested to see where this goes, and I'm sure I will be thinking about it for the next couple hours, 100%. But yeah, no, that's it from me, honestly. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add based on the conversations we've had.
Other than that, I just think the title of this episode will be speculation.
As we go through, I think of titles. I'm like, yeah, that's a good title. That's a good title. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching. Make sure you go check out our channels here, linked in the description, as well as the audio format of this podcast. If you don't want to see our lovely faces and just want to hear us instead, you can go check us out on most of the major audio platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, iTunes. That's the one, and Stitcher. They're the 4 we're on at the moment. I did it. I'm good. I'm trying to remember. The audio is your thing, and I'm trying to get my head around it. But you guys, I want to thank you all for watching. Have a fantastic day, and until next week, we will see you later.